Buddy, hey guys, doing there today? Welcome back to another episode of Halloween at the Manor. In today's episode, I'm going to be making some cemetery fencing for our haunt this year. This picture here is one of the sections that I already made. It's just not painted yet, but we'll get to that later. Making your own cemetery fencing is actually pretty easy to do. It doesn't require a lot of materials. I like to make mine using 2x2x8 furring strips and half-inch PVC pipe. You'll also need some different size screws, some paint, and if you really want to take the fence up a notch, purchase some plastic finials to finish off the top of the fencing. I bought mine on eBay from the seller Retro Spec Creations. You can get 100 finials for roughly 60 bucks. They do have different designs as well. I'm using the four-sided spire design. Now, one important thing to note, and this is very, very important. If you are using half-inch PVC like I am, you have to order the 3/4 inch finials. If you order anything smaller than that, they're not going to fit. Now, I like to make my fencing in 8-foot sections because the 2x2 furring strips I use are 8 feet long. However, you can make the sections any size you want. Now, for our project this year, I'm going to be making 16 8-foot sections. As you can see here, I'm going with a pretty simple design. Honestly, I'm doing this because the cost of PVC has skyrocketed since 2020. You used to be able to buy a 10-foot section for under $2. Now they cost almost $6 a piece. However, Home Depot does offer a bulk discount of 20% off if you buy more than 10 pieces at a time. I'm cutting the PVC at 40 inches tall, and when the finial is added, the height will roughly be around 43 to 44 inches. Since the PVC pipe is 10 foot long or 120 inches, I like to make the fence post either 30 or 40 inches long. By doing this, you can get either 3 or 4 fence posts out of one 10-foot piece of pipe. Now, in one 8-foot section, you are going to need 12 posts. So you will either need 3 or 4 10-foot pieces of PVC pipe, depending on the height of your fence. So now that we have all that out of the way, let's start making some fencing. So the first thing we are going to do is bore some holes in the 2x2x8 furring strips. You are going to need a drill for this and a 7/8 inch spade bit. The 7/8 inch spade bit works perfectly for half-inch PVC. We are going to start boring holes at 4 inches in, then every 8 inches after that. So we're going to be boring a hole at 4 inches, 12 inches, 20 inches, 28 inches, 36 inches, 44 inches, 52 inches, 60 inches, 68 inches, 76 inches, 84 inches, and finally 92 inches. Once we have the holes bored, now we are going to start putting together a section of fencing. Now, what I like to do, and you don't have to do this, I like to add a piece of 2x2 on each ends of the fencing. I think it makes the fence sturdier. It also makes it easier to connect the individual sections together. All you have to do is butt them against each other and run a screw through each piece of 2x2 on the ends, maybe one toward the top and one toward the bottom. You can also do the same thing to connect your fencing to cemetery columns if you have those in your arsenal as well. At the ends of the 2x2x8 furring strips, I like to pre-drill in holes for the screws. This prevents the wood from cracking or splitting. So let's use this section I already have done as an example. When I eventually run the 40-inch PVC post through these holes, I want to leave 4 inches on the bottom. I also want to leave roughly 4 inches at the top as well. So to make this happen, the 2x2s at the ends will need to be 29 inches long. We're going to get into some math here. So the furring strips are 1.5 inches wide. There are 2 of those, so that's 3 inches. Add to that the 29 inches, and that's 32 inches in total. That will leave us with 4 inches of PVC at the bottom and the top. To connect the end pieces to the 8-foot pieces, I'm just going to be using a 2.5 inch screw. Put a screw into each of the different corners, and once that's complete, we have the fencing structure completed. Now we have to measure out the PVC and get them cut. Like I already mentioned, I'm making my fence posts 40 inches tall. You can use whatever height you want. To cut these, I'm using a miter saw, but you can use anything you have at your disposal. A jigsaw, a handsaw, basically anything to get the PVC cut down. Now once we have the PVC cut out, start feeding the posts through the individual holes. You may want to get yourself a rubber mallet, they're not that expensive. It really helps out a lot if the PVC posts are not cooperating. Now after the PVC is in, I start measuring from the bottom the 4-inch gap I plan for. Once I have all the bottoms of the posts measured out to 4 inches, I will add screws into the 2x2s to keep the PVC in place. You can use 1-inch or 3/4 inch screws here. Now, I do not add screws into the bottom of the first and last post. The reason for this is I use rebar to keep the fence up, and the first and last post in the fence section are what I slide onto the rebar. Now that we have the bottom part completed, let's take a look at the top part of the fence. Before you start adding screws to the top part of your fence, just make sure the top 8-foot long furring strip is level. You can use an actual level if you want, but I just kind of eyeball it. If it looks good, start adding in the screws to keep the PVC in place along the top part of the fence. To get the finial on the PVC post, we're going to need a heat gun. Take the heat gun and melt the top of the PVC post. It should take roughly between 15 to 20 seconds. Once the PVC is able to be manipulated, slide the finial on top and really push it down. Do that for the rest of the PVC posts. Once you're finished with all 12 of the posts, I like to go back and put a 3/4 inch screw through the finial to keep it in place and to make sure that it doesn't fall off. Alright, now that we have the fencing built, let's go ahead and start painting it. I start off by spray painting the fencing with a black spray paint. The one I'm using here I got at Home Depot. It's the cheap kind that they sell. It's like $1.58 a can. Now, if you have a gray spray paint or a gray or black regular paint laying around, you could use that as well. Now, after the spray paint is dried, I like to dry brush on a gray paint over the black. I'm using Apple Barrel's Pewter Gray. I got this at Walmart. I think it was $2.50 for the bottle. Just put a little bit of gray paint on the brush and lightly go over the fence. Now, you can use a sponge as well, but it seems like the dry brushing is a little bit more efficient. You can go as light or heavy as you want with the gray paint, but you still want to see that black peeking through. Now, you do not have to do this step if you don't want to. If you spray paint the fence and you like the way it looks, you can stop there. I like to add the gray to give it that creepy fence look. If you go to a Spirit Halloween or a Party City and look at the fencing they sell, it's painted the exact same way. Now, the last thing I like to do after the gray paint dries, I like to go back over the fence with a rust-colored paint to give it that old and weathered look. I'm using Apple Barrel's Nutmeg. Again, I got this at Walmart. Just like with the gray paint, I dry brush on the nutmeg color. I personally love the way this looks. I think the rust element really gives that fence a creepy vibe, but that's just me. Again, you can do whatever you want as far as painting. If you like the black and the gray, you can stop there. You don't have to do the rust. This is just the way that I like to paint my fencing. So that's how I like to do my cemetery fencing. Again, you can do whatever you want for your fencing. You can make it whatever size you want, whatever length you want. It's completely up to you. This is just how I like to do mine. I think making the sections 8 foot long is pretty easy because that's what the wood comes in. So again, you can do whatever you like. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions on how I built any of this fencing, just let me know in the comments section. I'd be more than happy to help. But I really want to thank you guys a lot for watching. Greatly appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and take care. Bye.